Welcome everyone. It's 11 o'clock. So hello and welcome. My name is Erin Paul, and I will be the host and moderator for this ADEAL conference session. If possible, please turn your camera on so that presenters can see you, and make sure that your mic is muted to minimize background noise. If you'd like to offer nonverbal feedback, like a thumbs up or clapping, you can use the Zoom reactions. And at the end of the session, we'll have time for question and answer. Another quick note is that by entering this ADEAL session, you acknowledge that you're aware that the session will be recorded and may be posted online with ADEAL content. So this session will also utilize the Zoom live transcription function, which produces subtitles at the bottom of your screen. Please note that the accuracy of the transcription is contingent upon a variety of factors, including background noise and the clarity and volume of the speaker's voice. Thank you all for joining us for celebrating the diversity of the online learner. Please welcome Kristen, Lyons, our presenter.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. I know there are so many sessions throughout this great conference, and so I appreciate you coming to this one. If you were hoping to see Dr. Kim Livengood, unfortunately, she had an emergency meeting come up and she is in that. So you're stuck with me, but hopefully it'll be okay. All right. Like I said, my name is Kristen Lyons, and I'll get into introductions a little bit more in just a second. I want to make sure I share this presentation. Is everybody good? And you can see the presentation all right? Awesome. Thumbs up. Thank you. The good thing about whenever you have to jump in and it's just you, it's kind of nice that it's virtual. It doesn't feel as intimidating as a room full of people, you know, and it's just you. So I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. But I really want to tell y'all thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited to be able to learn alongside all of y'all. So hopefully you get something out of this. But what we're going to talk about is the celebrating the diversity of the online learner. And I'm moving y'all around so I can see you in all the same places as my notes. So getting my screen set, sorry, y'all. But as y'all know, I mean, online has definitely become such a, it's just a standard. It's what we do now, especially with all the pandemic. And so we're excited to start learning about this and digging in even more than what we already do. Once again, I'm Kristen Lyons, and I'm an assistant professor at Angelo State University. I am the program coordinator for our mental health and wellness counseling program. And I also get to teach alongside Dr. Audrey Heron, who will have a presentation at 1 o'clock. And we teach with professional school counselors as well, some of those courses, but we all share between foundational courses, and Audrey and I specifically hit in the different counseling courses. And then Dr. Livengood, of course, I'm going to introduce her. She is our chair for department here, our curriculum and instruction department here at Angelo State University. She is obviously, like I said, in a meeting, tied up. Bless her heart, she is on the go like that, and things have gotten really crazy for her, but we are truly appreciative to have a leader like her that is very innovative in what she does and helps guide us along the way and support us in that. But I'm going to jump in. So here we go. Online learning, which obviously all of y'all know about online learning, but it's let's get a little bit more of a breakdown and kind of get a little bit of an idea as what we're going through in this presentation. So it means just there's various formats, right, that use the internet for delivery and interactions. So it's one of the fastest growing forms of delivery in higher education and training programs, especially now. Online learning also means more than simply reviewing content online. So you don't just get in there and read and view videos and listen to audio recordings. In other words, it's more than just a passively viewing, as I call it. It's more than just a sit and get kind of thing. When you're doing online learning, it's more of an interactive type situation. So learning involves that interactive elements with others, such as, you know, instructor to student and student to student. There's all kinds of technological possibilities, and they are progressing rapidly, so much so that I'm sure some of the things I learned yesterday are old news now compared to today. Think about the tools that are now free that were not before, or have unlimited or limited free options that they didn't have in the past, and how these options have expanded. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't even keep up with all the things that are available now. We've seen tools become even more user-friendly Hallelujah for that, because some of them were very difficult to navigate. So whenever they become that, it's just even more tools in our belt, right? And then of course with COVID-19, that increased the numbers of users almost overnight. That, those that were hesitant to do any kind of online, they really didn't have another option at that point. So with more becoming online users, just because of fault, you kind of have to in a lot of situations. The cool thing about that is we're starting to get to see through their viewpoints and what is it that we're more accustomed to that they're just now getting into, and help us see better ways to improve it, right? So we're barely just getting a taste of that. And I think that's exciting. This is simply a momentary snapshot, right? So what we discuss now could probably change tomorrow, but this is some of the things that are different stages in the development that we're covering. So let's set the stage for a second. Online courses have become the standard, like I said, if not required, pretty much element of many educational programs, not just education, but really life, right? So when you look at it, I mean, you have now online, you have informal courses that are put online. You have in the industry situation that they've placed training modules online now. And of course, in education, you have higher ed, K-12 courses that have all been put online. Even churches have studies that are provided online. Community development trainings, modules that have all been placed online, where in the past, there was pretty much no other way except for face-to-face. So seeing that now and what we have available to us and how that's changed. It's kind of democratized education. So it's the idea that online education helps to overcome the elitism of higher education, right? Learning is brought to the student rather than the student brought to the learning. As mentioned in the keynote yesterday, online learning was originally designed to meet the needs of non-traditional students, and I think we definitely see that now. Programs with online courses are considered accessible and economically feasible because students can attend from wherever they are. This has always been part of the benefits of online courses and programs. However, though we have that, the dropout rates have always been a huge challenge. So for example, MOOCs, which I had to remember, I've gotten so used to saying MOOCs. I'm like, what does that acronym even stand for again? But the massive open online courses, right? Which are just, there's so many of them. They have a 90 to 94% dropout rate. That's huge. And then in this study that Dr. Livengood and I have been reviewing in Korea, there was a course that courses may have had over 90% dropout rates. And then in Colombia, the retention rate for traditional students is as high as 87% for traditional, while it's only 27% for the virtual classes. That's a big difference. Now, I do believe our percentages with all the online hopefully have increased, but retention rates are always important no matter what you're doing. No matter, like I said, if it's an informal or a formal class, a church study, whatever it is, you want to retain your learners. You feel like it's important enough to put it out there. So how do we keep them so they keep learning, right? No matter the environment. So since the focus of online courses have been to provide access to those who do not have access, it's often the vulnerable populations who are in these courses, right? Populations which include like first generation, low socioeconomic, the underrepresented minorities. These resources and these populations typically have less technologically advanced cultures as well. So that's something that we have to consider as we look into what we do in the online environment. So widely diverse cultural backgrounds from different parts of the world may also be enrolled in many courses. So and I don't know if y'all have experienced this in your courses, but I know I had non-native speakers may also participate in your courses. And I believe that has been one of the most fascinating things to watch and see in my online courses. I feel like my English language learners, and they'll tell you that in their introduction, however, their writing is phenomenal. I'm like, I would never think that. And then when you hear them speak, and we do different video aspects of it, I can hear that accent and I can hear, but they've prepared, they've written it. And with the online environment, it's given them a chance to have a little bit more of a comfortable situation to be able to really take time to think through their thoughtful contributions, to where sometimes in face-to-face and non-online situations, it doesn't always contribute. And so therefore, sometimes I feel like they may not speak out as much because they haven't had time to really truly process how they want to present that information. Anonymity may be a welcomed advantage for those who face prejudice and discrimination. And I do see that as a great helpful thing with the vulnerable populations that we deal with. So with courses, there can be good classroom courses, but that does not equal being an effective online course. And I think that's something that we all learned real quick. If you had your face-to-face during the pandemic and you had to jump to online, I remember panicking for some of those because it's such a difference in how you have to present your content. But moving content from traditional face-to-face courses to online content does not automatically mean effective learning or accessibility for underserved populations. It just doesn't. Cultures influence learning, right? Those from some cultures, such as, for example, China and Korea, they tend to be more teacher-centered and evolve the one-way communication. To me, like I said, not necessarily sit and get, but that form of communication and learning type of situation. So, but then you have, so for example, like learner-centered approaches may be seen as the responsibility of the students. So some cultures may not accept that as well when they're expecting that to be coming from the instructor. And I think in a way, it's kind of like they feel like you're supposed to be the authority on this, but yet I'm the one presenting the information. So I think that there's a way to try to balance that different cultural expectation. With Western cultures, for example, they tend to be more interactive and learner-centered, which values that learner autonomy. So I think being aware of how culture can potentially influence how your courses run, right? When instructors build courses, they can become inflexible and uniform. As mentioned during yesterday's keynote, he was saying having a course online does not guarantee innovation at all. For example, with the LMS, they can become the new structure. So taking that formal and then moving it here, and that can become your new structure. So courses frequently are repeated with minor changes. This heightens the challenge of providing user-friendly, culturally sensitive, and relevant instruction online. So being aware of that, I know that in our past, we kind of almost developed like our own online culture where we were cookie cuttering almost every course. And we at first were doing that to help students with flow of courses. So when they transitioned to each one, they knew what to expect. But we also got to where we saw that students, once they got used to that structure, they would skip a lot of the aspects because they knew this is the only page I need really to do my assignment. And they missed a lot of that. So we have now adjusted to that information and have changed it up some and make it a little bit more of a different instructional environment for them. But so the courses, though, they may be synchronous or asynchronous, and each type has its different aspects that may have been met, that may meet the needs of different students. So different strategies need to be implemented for each type to meet the needs of the diverse population. So it's something definitely consider when we do decide on synchronous versus asynchronous and think about the different cultures and how that represents and can support obviously our diverse student population in online learning environments. Challenges, there's always challenges, always. So technology failure, we were just talking about this before we started the session, was it can be great, it can be like your arch nemesis at the same time, right? I have a brand new student and she called in a panic, and I told her, I said, right out, I was like, we'll set up a meeting so we can help her navigate where she needs to. But so some of the things for technology failure, because we know it's part of it, so you might as well try to be as aware of it as possible. But instructors may be relatively more technologically advanced than students using these learning systems, right? So being able to use one type of technology does not guarantee ease of the use of another technology. I don't know about y'all, but I might know one really well, and then I jump to the next one. I'm like, I don't even know where to start. It's like, where do I even go? And so I think that's something to be aware of in our students and how they feel that as well. So instructors do not experience the same challenges. They may only have a limited understanding of what that technology may be. So some examples could be dependable power. Mine would be dependable online access, internet. I live out in the boonies and my internet is not always great. So knowing that that's a potential issue. Adequate hardware, up-to-date software. Google Docs is a great thing, but when it doesn't transfer nicely to, like, for example, we use Blackboard, it doesn't always transfer nicely. So being able to get those two pieces to talk to each other and work to help students. access to online database and information. And then, like I said, that constant internet access, that's what I deal with quite a bit. So to overcome some of these issues, students may try to do work only through their phone or their tablet. However, not all assignments may be possible. Have y'all had students work and you find out they're just working through their cell phone? That blew my mind. I was like, how are you doing that? Because ours doesn't necessarily play so nice on a cell phone. But when we find that out, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, let's see what we can do to help you with that. But that's something that was mind blowing to me. That, or even on a tablet, it's in the past, our tablet wasn't as user friendly with our LMS either. And so just navigating what they have available and how we can help. They may not have the same type of feedback through online tools. Instructors will often give global feedback in face-to-face classes. Think about it. When you'd come in after an assignment and you had your face-to-face class, we'd talk about, what it is, what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, what are some areas we can work on before we move to the next one. Online, that looks a little different. Now, I know there are different ways to address that global feedback to have for those classes. But that has to be, it's going to look, like I said, a little different. You don't just walk in and start having, class. So it does take time to learn to use all the different possible options for individualized feedback. When students do have technical difficulties, which we know it's going to happen, they may not know where to turn, or they may feel isolated without someone right there with them to help. And I think that is something, I think that's probably one of the biggest things. It's like, I don't know what to do. And they might not know where to reach. So when that happens, which we know it will, they do tend to have that sense of isolation. They also probably have some anxiety when it comes to all that. Anxiety with feeling, due to inadequate skills, a new environment. And some may have that extensive experience where others may not. Those from underserved communities, they'll often lack the experiences, right? And they won't have anyone in their family that has that experience that they can learn from. And that's usually a go-to. So definitely something to remember about the diverse populations. And then what others' thoughts are. Anxiety about, what are they thinking of me by doing this? Am I doing it right? And that kind of anxiety. And then the anxiety of, how do I interact in this? How am I going to come across? And so those are all legitimate anxieties that students do feel. Like I said, for example, that one student, just because she's having a difficult time, like I said, her email came, all caps, help, with lots of exclamation marks today. And bless her heart, it's her first class. And so I was like, I'm here, we'll figure it out. But just, she said, I'm a non-traditional student. I'm new to online learning. I cannot get my introduction and my picture to go where I need it to go. And she was like, I'm ready to just drop. I'm like, whoa, we got this, but I'm thankful she knew to reach out. So that is a huge positive, and being able to respond to her. So asynchronous, especially, lack opportunities for visual cues. Think about that. They don't get to see that. So they may risk misinterpretation. They may, like in some cultures, red actually indicates important text for Americans, right? But red in the Chinese culture indicates a warning or a correction. So knowing the use even of color, where you think about that. But culture influences text versus graphics too, right? So culture, the way you interpret what you see, can be very culture specific. And so that makes it sometimes difficult to help students. So some of the aspects that we have used is to address some of our different diverse populations this is called the 3 aspects of culturally responsive teaching. And I'm going to read that. I know that's horrible presentation style, but I'm going to read it to you, okay? Because these are 3 important competencies that we try to address. So the first one is competence, cultivating students' cognitive abilities to organize, study, and learn rigorous content. And then trust, I think this is huge, assessment of strategies and policies that demonstrate the professor believes all students are capable of successfully learning rigorous content. And then relatedness, fostering supportive and positive relationships between professor, students, and rigorous content. So having all those connect together, right? These are the 3 aspects. First, let's dig a little bit more into this one, the cultivating cognitive competence. So there's 5 big strategies. These strategies came from, it's called the Scala Learning Institute. It's a training that I went through for Hispanic serving institutions. But not only is it for Hispanic, but it's just for underrepresented populations and how best to learn the cultural aspects and how to learn how to cultivate them in a learning environment. Okay, so these 5 big strategies for cultivating cognitive competence. So showing students learning goals, letting them see it, making them know where they are, right? Planning a mix of higher and lower order thinking activities. With higher and lower, it challenges you to think in different ways, but also allows you to learn, right? Gives you a chance to learn. Give cognitive comprehensions to help organize and link concepts and details. So being able to put those pieces together and help them organize and see how they connect, right? Getting it from short term to long term. So helping make those connections. Revisit key information throughout the term. So re-emphasizing, remember when we learned about this is how it connects to this. And then giving examples of how to study and embed matter learning strategies. So I think sometimes, I don't know about y'all, when I'm taught how to study certain things, I'm like, that makes so much sense. Because sometimes it's like, I know my approach and it's not working. So when someone teaches me a new one, I'm like, oh, so that's how you go about it. I mean, and I have 3 little boys, and so I'm having to teach, and I see that of how to kind of, I call it, like structured scaffolding. You walk along with them, you help ask them, and you guide them, and then you gradually fade it as they learn to keep going on their own, right? So that is, I do that with my kids all the time. They never knew they were getting taught all this stuff. But in regards to the cultivating this competence in learners, online learners require a lot of independent work and individual motivation. It's just part of learning online. Sometimes that can be very difficult when you don't really know how to do that. So there are content is delivered in several different mediums to try to help adjust and hit on some strengths so that they can learn and that independent work and that individual motivation. So here's this one, cultivating relatedness competency. It's the 5 different strategies for relatedness, and but building relationships that are academically validating. Because, there's building a friendship, but that does not necessarily mean that's going to help you get through academia, right? You've got to have both. So you have the relationship that is academically validating. So that first one, continuous affirmation. Good job, good job. That's not teaching them anything, right? I mean, it's great. I don't know about you. I love having a pat on the back. But when you can pat me on the back and help me continue to grow through it, that's what we're aiming for, right? Well-structured welcome statements. So they know what you're hitting with them, telling them why and what they're about to get themselves into, I guess is a good way to put it. And then student survey at the end of the course. I have loved having this because it's their chance to give me their feedback. I just taught a hybrid class of freshmen, and I'm used to teaching grad school. So it was actually a blast. I loved it. I got to get a little face-to-face mixed with online. But at the end, I didn't know how they would do, if they'd just be like, it was fine. It's their first semester in college. They had phenomenal feedback on what we can do and how we could do it. And I was blown away by that because I was thinking, oh, they're freshmen. No, they had a voice and they let us know exactly what they thought. And it was fantastic. So having that survey at the end of the course really gives them that chance of being able to share that feedback, right? Class cafe is something that we do. And I don't know if that's a pretty common term now. I know it is in our world, but it's basically, we have one for each module that they go through. And it's their chance to ask questions specific to that module. And it's their chance to help each other. Instead of constantly emailing the instructor, they can help each other out. And if I have a student email me, I'm like, hey, put that in class cafe, because I'm sure you're not the only one with that question. And so we just have that continuous conversation going on in there about different things as we work through it, right? And then, but like I said, it helps them develop that positive academic relationships, and it's great when you move to your next online course, and you're like, I remember you from class cafe. And so you kind of are able to build, like I said, those academically validating relationships. And then consistent office hour availability. I think knowing that when my student emails, for me, that's how, they know I'm available. They know I'm going to answer. And they know within a certain time frame, right? I mean, It's not like in 2 minutes you're going to get a response, but the good thing is they trust me enough to know I'm going to reply. And I think that that's huge, especially in our underrepresented population. Sorry, my slides just went crazy for a second. It's like, whoa, what did I touch? Okay, so the way that we like to do this is through video use. Video has been something that I've truly loved implementing because I feel like it gives that face-to-face feel and makes you have a different kind of connection where you can also see and hear. You can hear the tone, you can see and read the nonverbal. It's one of my favorites, I have to say. So that's what we have done, and we've studied the implementation of video use. So the way we break it down, this is kind of how we categorize ours. So immediacy videos is that response to the now, like I need right now. And they can go in course announcements. And we usually do that probably about once a week. And then another thing I've started doing is video responses to students' emails. And that has been so cool. And they feel like it's like they came into my office and we had face-to-face time, because I read their questions and then I work through all of them, quick Flipgrid, and I send it to them. And they have said, oh my goodness, I feel like that was just for me. And I appreciate you taking that time. And even though it took like 2 minutes, and I don't know about y'all, but sometimes I actually get stuck because I know word choice. I'm like, word choice is such a big deal when you're sending an email, and sometimes I just need to talk through my thoughts. And when you talk through an email, it sounds like a big jumbled mess, right? So for me, being able to do video, they hear me and they hear me think and they hear the way I'm going. And those little videos through email responses have been great. I've even had, what's cool is I had a student do an audio recording back to me. And I'm like, I hear her thought process. It's really cool when you can't just stop and do like a Zoom session with somebody. So it's been really neat. So that's the immediacy responses, teacher immediacy. And then when you go to instructional, so we're very course specific in this. It's almost like a type of lecture. Sometimes we'll have the presentation, and we'll work through it and video that and post it in specific modules. And that stays just within the course. That's also sometimes we'll send those in announcements as well as like helpful videos for learning modules or anything like that. And then the evergreen, those are in multiple places, but typically we'll use those more we have something called an orientation. And it's kind of like your go-to spot for like, if you need help with APA 7th edition, there'll be some evergreen videos in there that'll carry and help you with that. Formatting, or how do I find my feedback in Blackboard? Where do I look for feedback and turn it in? Those kinds, that's what we kind of refer to as our evergreen videos. So in order to determine students' perceptions on the use of videos, feedback and information was gathered from students through a survey that was given at the end of the course on the use of videos and email responses. So this is some of the data that we gathered through that study, right? So demographics here at Angelo State, this was a study, we did this in 2019. So that was the current demographics for that time. And even before COVID hit, just over 50% of the semester credit hours offered were considered distance education. So they may have been hybrid or synchronous or asynchronous, either way. But like I said, we are considered a Hispanic serving institution. Therefore, that's why we were studying the Hispanic and Latinx students specifically to get an idea. For the demographics on specific courses where videos were strategically implemented, that's where we get these. So gender, as you see, they're mostly female at 96%. Got to work on that. We're trying. And then age, it's a pretty good variety of ages, even some over 60. So that's one thing I really like. I'm talking the courses that I enjoy. I mean, it's intergenerational. So we're learning from everybody, all different ages. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. I have to be careful that I don't call my students kids because they aren't kids. But as you're used to that face to face, and I'm like, oh no. And then they're like, you could be my daughter. Some of them have told me that, but that's okay because we still learn from each other throughout all of it. And I love hearing about the different experiences from young, those fresh out of undergrad all the way up. And so that shows the demonstration of our age range in our courses. And then race, we have a large percentage of white at 73%, and still have the diversity with Hispanic and Black, and the same as those who prefer not to answer. So we still had several that didn't want to answer on that question per se. Then the demographics for the fall courses, if you look at previous experience online, and previous experience within departments, since all the courses have a similar format. So the first one, is, like I said, that we did ranges from 1 to 5 courses, 6 to 11. So it's a good variety of course work right there. That was just taken at Angelo State, and then 12 or more. And then these are just the next one says previous courses taken anywhere before ASU. So a lot come in with a good amount of experience. And like I said, you see this, but that 33.96% have never done online. Like I said, and I had a student today and she would fit right in that percentage right there. So I'm going to go a little bit faster through some of these. I feel like I'm flying. I probably am. Sorry, y'all, talking fast. I'm leading a Bible study at my church, and the lady asked me, she said, "Are you sure you're from Texas? Because you talk really fast and you don't have a draw." I said, "Well, when I'm in a time crunch, I talk real fast and you don't hear my draw." Well, y'all might still, I don't know. Not as bad as my mom, but so I'll try to slow down a little bit. But here on these 2 different studies are the graphs. So the first one was the content helped me better understand the course material required. So the video helped me understand the course material. Strongly agree and agree. So it was a great turnout. On this disagree and the strongly disagree, those that I've seen throughout, those are our students that I feel like they would have got it either way. Video, cool, didn't help, didn't hurt. So like, I understood it without it, is the way I interpreted the disagree on some of the qualitative feedback that I received too. The video content helped me develop a better understanding of the assignments and the discussions used in the course. And there was a strongly agree with that. And then the video helped me develop a stronger understanding of the instructor, because they do get I usually start off with a welcome video where they learn about me and all my family and all my craziness and just some of my background. And then throughout, I usually try to share also like a self-care video that gives them ideas that, you need to learn to take breaks and learning to, that's important so that you don't get burnout. But they get, I think, a good understanding of who I am and kind of what I represent just in those different pieces. But so they get to know me pretty good, a strong understanding of the instructor. And then because of them getting to understand me a little better, the next question was, would it made me more comfortable about contacting them about a class issue? So strongly agree and agree. And once again, I feel like this disagree is because they would have contacted me either way, if they knew me or not. There's the students, it doesn't matter who you are, they're going to ask. And that's actually how I am too. But that is what I feel that disagree came from. Then how the video content contributed to my satisfaction with the course overall. So that's strongly agree and agree. I mean, like I said, a couple disagree. And then the video content helped improve my grade in the course. And I think this was a really cool one, because I had a student that specifically said she'd taken this course 3 times. And then this 3rd time is when I started implementing more video to help explain some of the content. And she is, like underrepresented population, Latinx, single mom, non-traditional student, all the pieces you can put together. And she'd already, had past failures in it. And she finally got it. And she said the video finally helped connect the dots for the pieces that I was missing. And so that was so cool. I'm like, it works. It works. I was so excited for that one. But I would like to see more courses use instructor video content. The cool thing is, almost every single one of our instructors here in our department makes videos. And so that has actually happened without, and we've talked about it a little bit. We all kind of studied it, and we all, at some point in each semester, make some type of video. And then they made the class feel more like a traditional campus-based class. And a lot of them need that. A lot of them stated that in online, they miss that face-to-face, but because of life, you can't always get to face-to-face class. And so having them feel like it was, I think what made it traditional feeling is because they were able to connect with somebody and make those connections. And I think that that's really what it was. I'm not going to read all this qualitative. I'm just going to hit on some of the high points. But for example, helpful to be able to see the instructor and hear them. Added additional clarification. Helped me to connect. Offered clarity and updates. Was always positive and upbeat. And I appreciated the attitude and the support. And it helped bridge the gap. Oh, I went the wrong way. Don't go that way. Okay, there we go. And then right here, it helped, gave further assistance, improved my experience, They were helpful, it was clarification, feels like I knew you, and said, I'm an old school student who needs in-person interaction, and the videos were the next best thing. I thought that was cool. I'm like, okay. And then, let's see. There we go. And then these I thought were really interesting. So we had two that were just neutral. And when I dug a little deeper into them, like I said, I'm neutral on this. The first response actually came that ethnicity was white, which totally fits the research, because learners from cultures that are focused on learner autonomy, they may not see the need for the video contact. They may not need that. And so that kind of fit the research of, if it would have been, like I said, an underrepresented population, that I would have just dug a little bit more in that, and they've just like the autonomy of it. And then the second neutral one said, I'm not sure I personally needed it. So that ethnicity actually didn't, said I prefer not to respond. So once again, still fits with the research of the different identified ethnicities are not from the necessarily underrepresented population. So therefore it may not have been as needed. It didn't hurt them, but it didn't necessarily help them either. So that was, I feel like, good feedback as well. This was for overall course quality, or course overall, sorry. Great contact, loved this course and the communication, well planned, easy to understand, even without video content, but I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed this course. And so I was like, okay, what made them enjoy it? Why, So it was interesting. That's where we're going to get into those next steps, but it was interesting to be able to get those pieces from them. But overall, so result wise, overall students were satisfied with the inclusion of the videos. And the instructor immediacy behaviors such as the friendliness, nonverbal cues, and flexibility were perceived as valuable to student perceptions. And then overall students responded well to the videos, with only positive feedback on the implementation of video strategies. And then based on student and instructor perceptions, the implementation of videos created connection and seemed to improve the satisfaction overall in the course, which, there's nothing wrong with having satisfied students, right? We want them to feel comfortable in that, and we want them to feel like they have a part in that course and create those connections in an environment that's not always easy to create connections, right? So for the cultivating competence, there was 3 competencies we talked about. We did not study trust, because I felt like that trust in a way was established through hitting on the other 2 competencies. So for the cognitive competency, it was another form of content delivery through the use of video. So they have it in written format, because all of our modules are written out. And so this, I felt like the video added another piece, because sometimes you don't want to read all those words, but sometimes when you do, you read it and it didn't make as great a sense. So then when you have somebody come in with a video and hit on some of the same points and the highlights, and you realize it confirms, oh, I totally got that, or, oh, I didn't think of it that way. So it hit the content delivery in a little bit different way. And then, nope. And then for the cultivating relatedness competency, they did seem to feel more connected. They were able to make those connections, whether it be instructor to student or student to student. And so that was good to see and hear that they felt like they made those connections. And then, like I said, for HSI, Hispanic Serving Institute relevance, it seemed to increase the sense of community, which is big in Hispanic serving culture, and belonging for online learners. So feeling like you belong and feel like this is your community and you feel like you should be here. I think that hit on those pieces that we try to address for Hispanic Serving Institutes. So for next steps, follow-up sessions. We want to be able to continue to see if this works. Continue, because, as we talked about, we have this moment here, but then we have more students coming in. They're going to have different cultural backgrounds and different cultural needs. And so we have to see if what we're doing, because we don't want to get stuck in that structure of this is how we do it. So once again, it's the same issue that we'll run into in the past. So it's a constantly evolving use of this tool and how to use it and what best represents that, what's the most effective way for students and instructors. And then we also want to be able to do more than just course connections. So we're working on that through program retention and program orientation. So something that we're trying to implement right now is we feel like we're making those connections in our courses by doing this. Now, how do we make a program connection? How do we make a department connection? How do we make a college university connection? So continuing to build those. So we're currently working on at the program level, sending out more videos right when a student gets accepted to a program. Our advisor is fantastic at creating new things, but we have a video that goes right out with all the information they get, that welcomes them to the program, that asks them to complete a survey right off the bat and tells them, it's low stakes, don't panic, it's all going to be okay. It kind of just gets them comfortable and welcoming to what to kind of expect that's coming program wise. We're also working on doing some short clip videos, like 30-second ones, just so when they click on our website, they can hear us and meet us and know who we are. And then, like I said, we're trying to do that to university as well, because we have students that will never step foot on our campus. But how do we make them feel? Our big saying is RAM family. So RAM fam, how do we make them feel like a part of the RAM fam? How do we hit on our visions from our university to make them feel connected in an environment that they won't ever get to step foot on? Like, they should know what homecoming with the bonfire looks like, that kind of thing. They should be aware of just the happenings on campus and just feel like they're a part of the community of ASU, the RAM fam, right? So those are our next steps, and that's what we're trying to implement. And then food for thought, creating videos. That's something that these are just like real quick things to think about as you get ready to create them, is accessibility. Most tools that you use to create videos, such as Flipgrid's number one for me, but there's Flipgrid, Zoom, YouTube, Kaltura. I'm sure y'all know even more than that, right? Some of those have accessibility, the closed captioning, and some don't. And like you talked about with Zoom, depending on how fast I talk, depends on how it translates, right? And if you've ever read the transcripts that come up, you read them like that's nothing like what I said. So being aware of, but some tools don't even offer accessibility. So being aware of that when you record. And then there's audio recording. That's another way I do feedback. Sometimes I'll use, it's called Vocaroo, and I talk through it and send it to them, and they can hear my thoughts as I work through their assignment. Podcast or something else that could be done. And then, of course, for video criteria in general, most research states that you want to limit your length anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 minutes, something like that. It's just like, we're almost all little kids. We only have so much of an attention span when it comes. You are all doing great, by the way. We've been going for a while, but we only have so much time that we can. And especially with our students, if they're wanting to listen to an announcement on a quick lunch break or at their conference period or whatever, they have that much time. So that's being respectful of their time at the same time. Being clear on the purpose of the video and what you're wanting to connect. And then being aware of your background. I have a friend that actually has at a different university, and they've done a study on the background of what's in people's background. And now I'm so aware of what's behind me. Like you talked about, people that have their cats that come across, but it's very interesting. And now, obviously, I think it is a thing, because think of how many wallpapers have been made. Like y'all have an Adele one. And, I see another gentleman that has like the fuzzes it out. And I'm like, it's like putting a curtain up. It's pretty interesting. So there is something to do with background awareness and knowing what's there, or your kids jumping in. Mine do that too sometimes. But, and then trying your best to do, no distractions with settings and sound, and just depending, but I also feel like it depends on the type of video you're making. Because sometimes my students, I want them to see that it's life. It's what's going on. I've made a video in my car because they needed to know something right then. I was not driving. We were at baseball practice, and I had all my kids out of the car. And of course, my little 6-year-old came on in anyways, but I was like, well, it is what it is. But they needed an answer then, and I made it then. And so I remember one saying, "You are real." I'm like, I am. So, but those are just some things to think of as we continue addressing and moving forward and using videos, and how it can help with our underrepresented populations and help them feel more comfortable and connected in the online environment. So Dr. Livengood is here. She's right there. She just got here. But that's all I have. Let me click in the right spot, maybe. Okay. Do y'all have any questions? She's here in time for all your questions.
I have a question. Did you mention something about a graphic or some kind of image that people would see differently depending on their culture? Did I understand that correctly? Could you elaborate on that?
I can talk that because, you know, we all look at images, and different things represent different ideas to different people. And just like anything that you interpret, anything that you take in, whether it's via word, whether it's images, whether it's experiences, we all interpret it based on our backgrounds. And so that's the thing that we have to remember, is that just a specific image may not be interpreted, just like a specific word may not be interpreted in the same manner. You know, we always taught with people with the cultural aspect, the word respect. How to show respect is very different in different cultures. And so that translates into all different things, not just our words and our actions, but also the images that we choose to put on in our courses.
Okay, thank you.
I have more of an observation or comment. I was really struck by the relatedness part of the presentation, because recently I teach an asynchronous reading and Spanish for reading and translation class. And just last week I met with a student who is taking the class for the third time and has little kids and is extremely motivated, but you know, is in a new job, right? And so like he has to pass this reading exam, and I went through and I made a list of suggestions for how he could adapt the course to sort of really prep him for his specific exam. And it was exactly what he needed. I have yet to, like, this was just last week, but it was one of those things where I thought, I mean, I know he's busy, so I wonder if it would be helpful for me to tell him, don't try to do the translations when you're tired, right? Like,
Nice.
So that was what I did, you know, and he was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I'll just do the readings when I have less energy. I'm like, you're always tired, right? He's got real little ones. You're always tired, but when you have more energy than usual, you do the more heavy lifting work. So it was really nice to have that connection for me as an instructor, and I think he really appreciated it. And when you were talking about it, it was like, oh, I gotta just check in with him. Like, it reminded me that I need to check in with this student just to make sure that, you know, everything's going to plan, or, you know, he feels like things are good if he needs any more assistance. So it was validating to hear, you know, that these are the things that you sometimes have to do for students, and you don't always know if they're going to be right, but when they are, it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's that, like I talked about with my kids, that structured scaffolding of, you know, in my mind, if I'm going through the course, I would kind of know this, but typically they, like you said, haven't figured out exactly how to study and know what parts to do when. And so even just giving that little hint of, you know, you might try it this way. And they're like, I never thought of that. And you're like, really? Okay. I mean, but it's little things that I feel like, you know, when you become the expert on the content like you do, we think through it in different ways than a student that's struggling. And so I think being able to help, you know, them hear, this is how I would do it. Then they're like, oh, okay. And so I think that's a perfect example of that. Yes. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions that you have for our presenters?
If y'all do need our contact information, it's right there. If you need any of the resources or anything like that, please let us know. We are willing to share.
Thank you for that offer. And thank you for the presentation, Kristen and Kim. I know you prepared, you were taken out at the last minute. But thank you all for attending. If there are more questions, we can stay on, but remember that we have asynchronous activities listed in the conference. So if you have a busy day, you can always see those, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. This is really good food for thought, right? And also validating to hear different experiences.
Yes.
So
I feel like we're all on the right track when you hear other people that have done things as well,
yeah,
right?
it's very helpful. Yeah. You're not in a bubble.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even we feel that.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Bye.